Thanks for clicking! Now could be the time for first-time homebuyers to get into the real estate market. This according to a new expose from CBC, letting us know that it could be now or never. Yeah, now that's not to be confused with the March CBC report that told us that Trump tariff uncertainty could signal the perfect time for homebuyers to get into the market.
Now might be a pretty good time.
That report was about $10,000 in national price drops ago, or about $80,000 in price drops in Toronto. And it's just hard to know, ex post facto, how the CBC got it so wrong, having spoken to so many experienced experts. Just take a look at who's presenting in this report. Real estate broker, head of a real estate company, chief economist at a real estate board, another head of a real estate company. Yeah, but maybe this time though, the taxpayer-funded news organization has seen the error of its ways and is turning to the real, unbiased professionals.
But this Toronto real estate agent says buyers are...
But hey, maybe things have changed. Maybe now is the best time for buyers to get into the market.
So many first-time buyers are like, I want to wait until the very bottom. You can never find the bottom. I think we're sort of close to the bottom of where we're going to be.
Let's just get this over with.
So what I want to do today is go over the CBC's report, fact check and logic check the claims made there within, as we did last time, and then go over some implications. We are eagerly awaiting the release of August real estate data set to be released by the local boards any day next week, and we'll obviously have an update out on that data on this channel. Make sure you click like and subscribe if you want to get those updates, but for now, let's get into CBC's report. On to the report from the CBC, whose experts tell us that this could be the right time for first-time homebuyers to jump into the market, as interest rates are down.
Is this the best time to buy?
I haven't seen such a good time for a first-time buyer in years and years and years.
Interest rates have finally started to come down, and so there's kind of a reemergence of first-time buyers.
So, according to the CBC, interest rates are down, leading to the mass entry of first-time homebuyers into the market, which is sort of the case, as we have seen a relative increase in first-time homebuyer activity. With that said, as we've talked about before on this channel, home buyers aren't jumping into the market because interest rates are down, as interest rates aren't really down. If we look at the yield on the 5-year Government of Canada bond, it's about as high as it's been, save for a few blips here or there, for the past year. Mid-September 2024, the rate on a decent 5-year fix from RBC was 4.74. Fast forward to August 1st of this year, it's now sitting at 4.69.
Life will never be the same.
So fixed rates aren't really down. In fact, they're up a bit from a few months ago. So those rates cannot be responsible for the return of first-time homebuyers. Now, sure, yes, variable rates are down from a year ago as the Bank of Canada has cut by 225 basis points. But remember, this report is focusing on now or never for first-time homebuyers. Is the CBC really suggesting that those buyers take variable rate mortgages to get into the now or never housing market at a time when even the central banks are screaming caution on inflation?
Smart.
If so, if that's the argument that's being made, first-time homebuyers aren't heeding that advice. At least into June, we've seen a decrease in variable rate usage relative to that of fixed for insured mortgages. Those mortgages with minimum down payments, those mortgages more likely to be used by first-time home buyers. As such, my guess is that it's not so much lower interest rates bringing buyers back to the market as it is lower prices. And even then, at least for Toronto, let's relax a little bit. July was the first month in a lot of months that wasn't totally abysmal relative to that of other years. With that said though, according to the CBC's expert, interest rates could drop, and then you better watch out.
I think in January, February 2026, especially if rates go down, there's been such a backlog of buyers for the last few years that people are going to come out and they're going to start buying, and I think the competition will start again.
Yeah, you wouldn't want that, would you? Now, let's go back to March CBC's report, and we'll consult with another expert. Let's go with a Toronto realtor.
As of right now, I'd say, yeah, I mean, there's certainly that kind of Goldilocks zone where there is a decent amount of inventory, lower rates. But if all buyers decide to re-enter the market over the next few months and there is a flurry of buying activity, we could then see this other weird zone where, like, even with all of the uncertainty and all the nonsense going on in the market, pricing start to push upwards.
And that was $80,000 in price drops ago.
Does a pretty good job.
But realtors pushing FOMO, a fear of missing out, that's not really anything new. They're just doing it on our dime as of recent. But even more telling was how far the Toronto realtor, the CBC expert, was willing to go, especially when describing the condo market.
A year or two ago, for $600,000, you would have gotten a tiny little baby condo. Right now, for under $600,000, you can get a pretty decent one-bedroom condo.
And nary a day goes by where we don't see article after article about the worsening condo crash. So why would right now be the right time for a first-time homebuyer to move?
A lot of condos are selling for less than they were bought for just a few years ago.
Yeah, but with such a glut of condos sitting on the market, expected to only increase for the remainder of the year, then shouldn't prices just get better? Even Robert Hogue of RBC, other expert featured on the CBC report, noted elsewhere that Toronto prices are expected to fall for the remainder of the year. So, as we saw, the CBC let the realtor go off. No one can predict the bottom, but we've probably hit a bottom, maybe go buy a condo, but then let Hogue talk about the remainder of Canada with nary a mention of Toronto.
Out in the prairies, prices continue to rise in Saskatchewan, for example, and Winnipeg. We've seen tighter supply-demand conditions, and that's a little bit the same case in parts of Quebec. Quebec City, for example, that's a very tight market, and parts of Atlantic Canada as well.
But for some in those...
So, Hogue of RBC just didn't mention a thing about Toronto. That was the entire interview. He just forgot about Toronto.
I bet that happens all the time.
So, according to the CBC and its experts, interest rates are down. They're not really. Better get in before lower interest rates send prices higher. They've said that before. And the condo market is flashing buy signs, even though it's only getting worse.
Your tax dollars at work.
And then, finally, after 6 minutes of rate cuts, etc., the CBC finally spends 10 seconds on real good advice.
But no one knows for sure if there will be further cuts to come. Other analysts say looking at your own personal situation, like income, job stability, and financial goals, are better indicators that it might be the right time to buy.
There would be a gradual...
I guess they couldn't find any actual analysts to appear that would say that income, job stability, and financial goals were the most important part of deciding when and if to buy a house.
I don't know how much.
Okay, but those are very much really the only things you should be considering when you decide, if you decide to buy a home. If you are in an industry that could be hit from the trade war, then maybe this isn't the best time to buy. If you are in a relatively safe industry and the home is affordable, you like the home and it works within the budget, then maybe it's worth considering. Don't buy from a fear of missing out. There's a ton of inventory on the market. Don't buy because the popular kids from high school pulled out their crystal balls. So the CBC with its experts, very similar to the March release, telling us that interest rates could drop and you could very well miss out. It could, in fact, be now or never. With that said, the last time they said that, there were all sorts of problems with that report, and very expectedly, prices continued to drop by $80,000 in Toronto alone. As we saw today, this report as well is problematic to say the least, and as such, I wouldn't take that FOMO to heart. We will obviously continue to track how Canada's real estate market plays out on this channel. Make sure you click, like, and subscribe if you want to get those updates, but for now, thanks so much for watching.